Is going to be a full introduction to Map Business Online, showing off the features that are used most commonly in the program. Map Business Online is a cloud-based solution, so that just means that it requires internet for use, and the great thing about that is your maps travel with you. So as long as you can get access to a computer and a web browser, you can log in and get your maps. We do have two versions of the program. We have a browser version that you can use through Safari, Firefox, Edge, Chrome. That's all available for you, and you can access it through our website. We also do have this desktop version that's available, and the desktop version is available for all subscribers, and it's essentially like a backup. So if you come into the office and Firefox or Chrome did an update and it broke something, we have a place for you to go with our desktop app. You can download it right from our website. You just log in, and it would work in the exact same way as the browser version. We're actually looking at the desktop version now. So we're going to go over quite a few of the buttons at the top, but first I just want to start with this map and data box, as it's essential to using your map. First thing I'm going to show you is if it ever disappears on you. Just look to the left-hand side and you'll see a single blue arrow. If you click on it, it makes it pop back out. This map and data box is where we control our different layers, like our zip codes and our counties and our states. Also, if we imported point layers or created territories, they would eventually appear there as well. An important feature of this map and data box is when you highlight a layer, there's a little settings gear that pops up. And when you click on it, it opens up a large box called Manage Map and Data. And you're constantly coming back and forth into this to change the look and feel of your map. So if you wanted to, you could go to your states layer, make those borders stand out. We could click on labels, change the color of the font. And also, if we wanted to, we could go in at the zip code level. If we want to make this layer transparent, we can click on the general tab at the zip code level and slide that transparency bar over. This is most useful if you're creating a territory map, so that you can see through to those major roads, major highways in those urban areas. Keep in mind that we come back to this Manage Map and Data quite often, and the way to get there is just through one of these little settings gears. Next, if we take a look in the top left, some of these buttons are self-explanatory. There's Create a New Map, there's Open a Previously Saved Map, and then the third option is to Save a Map. You can save up to 200 individually named maps with a single user license. You can save up to 400 maps per user with our team subscription. Anytime you click the Save button, you give it a new name, and then the document is saved. You can continuously work on the same map over and over. If you want, you can delete old maps. I'm going to skip over this button for now, but it's a pretty cool feature called Map Share. And so what it is you get your map the way you want. You click the Map Share button. It'll have you save your map, and then it creates a link, a URL. You can then email that URL to someone else who doesn't have a license. They click on it, it opens up in their browser, and they get an interactive version of the map that you've created. They can't edit it, but they can click on points, zoom in, zoom out, see your territories. So I'm going to walk through this next button, and that's called Plot Data on Map, and this is probably the button that's used most often in the program. The most important thing is that you have your Excel spreadsheet set up with different data in different columns, and you definitely want to have a header describing what type of column it is. So if you have city, state, zip, break those all up. Feel free to throw in additional columns of data. So if you have sales figures, or if you have a column dedicated to the type of customer that you have, you can always use this for color coding, labeling, and filtering. So what we're going to do is just browse to our spreadsheet location. I'm going to just pull in a list of customers, and we'll just walk through the wizard. As long as you have the proper headers, then the program is smart enough to let you know which column is which. If, say, I didn't have city and I had some other name, maybe I had ship to city or something like that, and the program couldn't decipher it, you can choose the column from the pull-down list to let the program know which column your city would be in, and so on. Next, we have the ability to enter our callout information, and we can give it a unique ID. A unique ID is for a process called Update Dataset. You don't have to have a unique ID, but just want to let you know where it is, and we go over that in other videos. We're going to just go ahead and click Plot, and we're going to have points all over the map, and automatically you will see that our data window pops up, and the data window is just essentially a window into the Excel spreadsheet that we brought. You can bring in up to 100,000 points with our standard version, and you'll notice some buttons in the data window. First, there's a data filter, and the data filter is useful if you wanted to sort your information down. So if I only wanted to look at those points within a specific state, or if I only wanted to see the ones that met a certain sales threshold, or if I have a type of customer, I can filter that out to just show one type of customer. At any point, I can export my filtered information or just my standard spreadsheet back out to a CSV file for viewing in Excel with this button on the end. In this data window, if I want them all to look the same, I can change their size and their color and their shape. We have a pretty extensive symbol set, but if you don't like the ones that we have, you do have the ability to click on Manage Custom Symbols, bring in your own company icon. So I have a Walmart icon. I can make them all look like Walmarts if I wanted to. I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to take a look now at my zoom tools. Up in the top right corner are zoom tools. You can zoom in incrementally. You can zoom out incrementally. You can also grab this little bar and you can move it up to the level that you want. If you want to go to the previous view, you click on this little blue arrow. If you want to jump out to the United States level, you can click on the flag. And then finally is the one that I probably use most often, and that's the magnifying glass. So to enable it, you click on the magnifying glass and you get a little red circle. And then you can see that magnifying glass is kind of following you around. You can then start in the top left and click and drag to the lower right, and that'll zoom in on that area. When you're done, you just go back to that magnifying glass, click it again, and it's disabled now. So next is if we don't want all these points to look the same. If we want to differentiate them by information in our Excel spreadsheet, we can click on this button here called Color Code with Symbols. With Color Code with Symbols, you can choose any of the columns of the spreadsheet that you brought in and color code them. I could go by sales if I wanted to, and I could change the number of ranges. I could also change the value of each range, and I can change the size, color, and shape for each of those individual ranges. In this case, I'm going to choose my type of customer column. Go to customer type, exclude empty values, and then I can make them all the same size with the copy size button, and then click done. And now I have my differentiated points on the map. If I zoom in a little bit further, I can start to see some street level detail. And for clarity, I can just temporarily turn off my zip codes and my states layer and just be left with my points on the street. Now, if I wanted to, I could click on one of these individual points and open up information about this customer in what we call a callout. It's just a text bubble to give you some reference, and you could put up to 5 fields in this lower section. You don't have to have 5 fields. You could have 0, or you could have 1 if you wanted to, and it would just appear below the name and the address. So next, what I'd like to show you is what we call a marketing list. And a marketing list is how you create a subset of points from a larger list. So we're up in Maine, so I'm going to just center on Maine, and I'm going to go up to my address bar. I'm going to type in a Portland, Maine address, just so it centers me on the map. You can use this address bar if you want to type in a specific address. You could just do a street, comma, city, comma, state, or you could do a street, comma, zip code, or you could just do a city and state, or in this case, a zip code. I'm going to just type in a zip code. It'll center me on my map, and you'll see that I have a toolbar here that would allow me to draw a circle around that point, or I can do a drive time distance. I'm going to use a drive time tool because what if I'm new to a city and I know that I have to visit customers here, but I think, maybe a 25-minute drive time would be feasible to visit those customers within that shape. I can click Add to Map, and now I have a polygon on the map, and if I click this little magnifying glass, it'll zoom me out so I can see the whole drive time polygon. So I can see what I can expect to get for a distance within 25 miles. And keep in mind, this is always plus or minus. Now, let's take it a step further, and let's get a list of the customers that are within that drive time polygon. What I can do is just click on the shape of that drive time polygon, and I have a new toolbar that pops up. I can use it to summarize demographics if I want to see an estimated population or median household income. Or in this case, if I want to list the customers within that shape, I'm going to click these binoculars. The program will ask me what I want to find within that shape. In this case, I want a list of my customers within that shape, so I'll click Next. I'll give it a name. And click Create. And now my data window pops back up, and if I use the pull down list, I can see that my 25 miles from 04101 is a subset of customer list 2. I see that I now have 17 available. And to export, I can just click this button here. The next thing I'd like to show you is territories. Territories in Map Business Online can be created at the zip code, county, state level. If you have a 12-month subscription, you could do it at the Zip 3 or Census Tract or Congressional District layer as well. If you have a list of a spreadsheet of territories, then you can bring it in with this button called Create Territories. It's a little red puzzle piece. The wizard will walk you through this, and it'll give you an example of what a spreadsheet might look like. So you have a list of your zip codes in your Excel spreadsheet with all the zip codes that you cover in your territories. Then you give yourself a territory header with the territory names next to the zip codes that they cover. It could be territory ABC 123, or you could have people's names next to the zip codes that they cover. It's going to be very similar to plotting data that we just browsed to a spreadsheet. In this case, I have a territory 1A that's going to be around Richmond, Virginia. I'm going to keep clicking next, and then I'm going to make sure that on this last page that my territory name column has been identified correctly, and double check that you're using the right type of geography of what you're looking for. I'm going to click Create Territories, and now these are automatically filled in with a color, and you're presented with the data window. The first thing I can do if I don't like the color yellow is I can click on this color, and this little color box pops up, and I can choose anything that I like. If I need to see the zip codes that are within an individual rep, I can click on this little arrow here, and that'll give me a full list of the reps in Territory 1, and I can choose to export it. I could also change the color here if I wanted to something else. If I want to make this territory layer transparent, I can do so in a similar way that I did with the zip codes, and I can go to my newly created territories line here, and notice that you can always toggle it on and off if needed. And so for this, I'm going to click on the little settings gear next to territories to open up Manage Map and Data. I'm going to slide that transparency bar over to the right hand side just so I can start to see through some of that major roads. One thing you'll notice if you're updating or your task is given to update the territory file, you'll notice that maybe some zip codes are out of place and need to be corrected. If this was done in mistake, my spreadsheet is not what I wanted it to be, I can easily manipulate a territory in the program. If I want to change this zip code, I can click on it, click on the zip code number so it knows that I'm not clicking the entire territory, I'm just clicking a zip code. Click Continue, and I'm presented with a blue puzzle piece. And this blue puzzle piece is really the key to managing your territories. So I'm going to click on it, and the program will ask, what do I want to do with that zip code? Do I want to create a new territory from it, add it to an existing one, or in this case, if it's wrong, I'm going to click Remove from Rep 2, and now it's gone. I have an updated list that I could export. It's very easy to create a new territory on the fly. I could just hold down the Shift button on my keyboard and just start clicking away. And then once I have all of the zip codes that I want, blue puzzle piece again, this time I'm going to do Create New, and I'll just call it Rep 5. Now that's automatically set up in the data window. If I ever need to toggle between the different ones in the list, I can click the pull down list and see my territories there. So next is if you don't want to click on them one at a time. So if you know that you have a big chunk of area and you want to do them all at once, we have our search tools. I'm going to just turn on my state borders here. And our search tools are right at the top here, and they're the little shapes with binoculars. We have a circle radius, a polygon, a freeform area, which is just like a lasso, and also a drive time. In this case, I'm going to choose a freeform area, and I'm going to let this shape do the heavy lifting for me. And I'm just going to get the bulk of these zip codes up here. And then when I come back to the beginning, it'll ask me what I want to find within that shape. Do I want to find a list, customer list, like we did before with the drive time polygon? Or if I'm creating a territory, I want to create it by zip code. Give it a name. I'll call it Massachusetts North, and then it's automatically filled in with color. I can do the same thing again if I want to use my polygon tool, and then I can just start clicking away. Every time I click my mouse, I get to change direction. And once I come back to the beginning, connect that tool, then it'll ask me once again what I want to do with that shape. I'm querying the zip codes, and I'm going to call it Massachusetts South. Now we're going to take a look at territory labels. Now you can define information in a label at the zip code, county, state, or territory level, and it can show an accumulation of data. So if you ever wanted to see how many customers we have within our individual territories or how much they bring in for sales, we can show that with a territory label. So what I'm going to do is once again go into my Manage Map and Data box at the territory level, and I'm going to click on Labels this time. I'm going to change the background color if I want to make it pop out a little bit more. And then to add information, I'm going to click on Format Labels. You can put up to 5 pieces of information here, but I'm just going to do 3. I'm going to check box number 1, and then I have the option of telling the program where I want to pull this data from. I could choose demographic data, or in this case, I'm going to use the information from my point layer that I previously brought in that has sales information. If I wanted to see the number of customers, I could just leave it on count and just fill in the prefix so that when somebody's looking at the map, it's not just a number, there's a description next to it. Next, I'll click number 2, still reference that same point list that I brought in before, and this time I'm going to choose sales total. Just let it know that it's choosing sales, and then maybe we want to know demographic information. So we have a ton of information here: population, median household income, ethnicity, age ranges, income level ranges, and also consumer expenditures. And you'll find that the data goes back many years. I can just choose population, click change labels, and now I have an updated list in my territory label so I can see what I can expect for sales and the number of customers in these 2 territories. I can then use this to help to start to balance out this information. So if I wanted to, I can zoom in a little bit here. I can see I have a bunch of customers here, and if I wanted to kind of even out the sales information, I could click on this zip code over here that contains 4 customers. Click on the puzzle piece, remove from Massachusetts South, and blue puzzle piece again, and I could choose to add to Massachusetts North. So now my numbers are automatically altered, and I can see which one has more. So you let those search tools that we did before do the heavy lifting, and then if you want to fine tune it, hold down the shift button on your keyboard, and then you can start to connect the dots here. Blue puzzle piece, and we'll add it to Massachusetts North. So now that we've gone over territories at the zip code level, I'm going to zoom back to Portland, Maine, and we're going to take a look at that marketing list because I want to create a road route. So our route tool is located at the top here with this little green car. If I click on that, I can click on this button here to manually type in an address. I could do a street, comma, city, comma, state, or I could do a street, comma, zip code. Maybe this is for a hotel location. If you're new to the city and you need to visit those customers, you could type in your hotel address here and it'll put it as a dot on the map. I could also use my little map note here, and if I move my mouse in it, there's a little car, and I can click on that car and I can choose this location as a start, stop, or finish. If I pretend this is my hotel, I can click that as a start and add it to my route window. I can choose to make this a round trip if I know at the end of the day that I'm coming back to that location. Now if I wanted to, I could click on an individual point and there's a car inside the tag, and I could choose to insert this as a stop. I could continue to do that until I have the route that I want, and then I can calculate it with this button here on this little green car. Now if I go back to my marketing list, that list that I created from my drive time polygon, I'm going to choose this from the pull down list. You'll see that I could also route from here. So I could click on this individual entry, add that as a start, stop, or finish, or we could make this really easy and make all 17 of these entries hop over to that route window at once with this button at the end. It looks like the little calendar with a green car. I'm going to send those all over to the route window, and now they're here ready to be calculated. I'm going to click calculate, and it's going to give me an optimized location through all of those points. I'm going to just click on my drive time polygon, and I'm going to change the color of it just so it stands out and differentiates itself a little bit from my route, because my route's purple. So now I have an estimated route going through each of these locations. If I wanted to, I could change the departure time. I can click on the little pencil here and tell it that I want to depart from 7 a.m. I can also go down to an individual customer, click on the pencil, and I can tell it that I have an appointment here at, let's say, 1 o'clock. And I plan on being there for 30 minutes. I can click save, recalculate, and it'll give me an optimized time, optimized route, knowing that I have to be at that specific customer at a specific time. If I wanted to export my route, I can click on the little car with the floppy disk, and I can export the directions as a PDF, HTML if I wanted to view it in a web page. CSV if I wanted to export it in Excel, and then TomTom and Garmin if you still have one of those devices, you could send the whole route immediately over there. We also do have an option to set a stay duration. So a stay duration is basically I know that I'm going to be going to every customer for an hour. So if I click on this little settings gear, it pulls up a box and I can tell it which column of my spreadsheet I'm going to go by for stay duration. So I'm going to just quickly bring up my customer list just so I can see show you what I mean. In my original spreadsheet, I created a column that's called stay duration. I just put 60 minutes for each one, and this is part of the information that I originally imported. If I want to use that information, I'm just going to tell it that my column of my spreadsheet is stay duration, and that contains my stay times. So I'm going to click set options, and I'm going to just redo my route. So I'm going to make that my start, optimize trip, data window, add them all at once. Now we can see that we have a 1 hour stay duration. This might not be feasible for what you're doing, but just for the sake of the demonstration, we'll click the car. It's going to calculate what it expects it to be going through each of those locations, staying for 1 hour. So that's the route window at a glance. If you don't want to optimize your routes, you could uncheck that box and you can force it to go any route direction that you want. I'm going to just delete this. So there are other features in the program as well that I just want to briefly talk about. If you wanted to save an image, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can click on this little globe with a floppy disk and save it as a JPEG or a PNG. We have a printer icon if you want to print the map or save it as a PDF. I always recommend saving it as a PDF first and then printing the PDF just because I think it looks nicest that way. You can print up to a 5 foot by 5 foot wall map image if you wanted to. You can save that as a PDF. Next, we do have a measure distance tool. If you just wanted to draw a straight line between locations, you can make that any shaped arrow that you want, any color, and that's on the map for you. We have draw tools if you wanted to draw a circle on the map, polygon, freeform, and other tools. We also do have text on the map if you just wanted to drop a text bubble anywhere you want. And then finally, we have this add location map if you just want to drop an individual point. This button here is called Color Code Map. This button would allow you to color code states, counties, or zips based on information either from your imported spreadsheet, or I could use demographic data. So if I ever wanted to see the change in population totals, I could change the number of ranges if I wanted to. I could change the value of each range, and sometimes this will need a little tweaking. And I could change the colors and make those really stand out. And then click done, and now my map is color coded. It's a little faint because I made my zip code layer transparent before, but I will go ahead and make that less transparent now. So now you can get an idea of population totals across the nation. A lot of times franchisees will use this just so they can get an idea of where to concentrate on. And if you ever need any help, you just reach out to us. Next is a heat map. If you just wanted to do a simple cloud, you could change the intensity if you wanted to, and you could tell it which column of the spreadsheet you'd like to go by. Otherwise, it'd go by count, and you can click done, and then you get your heat. If you zoom in, the heat starts to dissipate. And if you zoom out, it starts to go together. Next is a button called Color Code with Circles. With this, you can look at a spreadsheet, and you can tell it to look at a numeric column of your spreadsheet. And you can make these circles larger or smaller based on information of that spreadsheet. If I just choose my sales, then I can click done, and it'll make the circles larger or smaller based on the column of that spreadsheet for each of those points. You can change the colors, you can change the label that appears here. As well. I'll go ahead and change that back to symbol. Finally, we have this market analysis tool. This market analysis tool is kind of an advanced feature. The people that use it love it, so definitely reach out if you get stuck. But just in a nutshell, what that will do is it'll allow you to compare the distances between two spreadsheets. So if you've imported one list of customers, and you've imported a list of store locations, you can use this tool to find a distance that the customer would have to travel to get to the closest store. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to go back to my final piece now, and that's called Map Share. And this is a very cool way to share your map interactively with a non-subscriber. When you enable that, it's just going to ask you to save it. And you click save and share. And then this box pops up. What you want to do is 3 steps. You want to enable public sharing. You want to copy your URL because we're going to drop that in an email or a web browser. And then the final piece of this is to click apply sharing settings. If you don't click applying sharing settings, then the URL will not work. So that's the 3rd piece that you want to do. When somebody clicks on that, it will pull up an interactive version of the map that you've created in MapShare. This will just take a minute to load, and they're going to see an interactive version of what we did today. While this is loading, I also want to go over our help topics. If you click on this question mark at the top, it'll pull up our help. You can also access that from our main site. The help site will show how to do just about everything in the program. So if you're getting started, you can click on the Getting Started video. If you want to plot from Excel, it's listed here under Plot Data, and we give you step-by-step instructions on how to do this, along with a short little video. So we have ways to manage your territory, all that information's there. We also do have this video archive, where we have tons of videos. If you have time, feel free to go through, or you can always drop us an email and say, hey, do you have instructions on how to do this? We can send you a quick little video, no problem whatsoever. It shows you how to create territories, use demographics, how to share your team maps, and many different ways to use the program. So just know that that's there. Also, besides the, actually let me expand this now. So this is our public map share. So through our public map share process, it creates a URL. You email that link to someone else and they get an interactive version. So this is kind of what they would see. They would see the last save of your map that you did. They also have the ability to toggle on and off data. They can turn off zip codes. They can turn off the states. They can even turn off the point layer and just see the territories that you created. So this is just a pretty neat way that you can share your maps interactively. They can click on a point and see information about that customer. They can also have access to the data window, so they can see your different marketing lists. Where this gets even more powerful is that they do have search tools as well. So they can search by a radius or a polygon, so they can just draw a shape around each other, and they can actually create their own marketing lists. So we can tell it that we want to query the customer list. Click create, and now they have their own subset of points in a marketing list that they can export. So it's just a really fun way to share an interactive map with a non-subscriber. Last thing I'll leave you with is, if you get stuck, please reach out to us. We're available through phone and email. Email is great because we can send pictures and videos and step-by-step instructions back and forth. But you can always give us a call. If you sign up for a team subscription, we can definitely do a remote session like this and walk you through the product as well. Otherwise, have a great day, and thank you for your business.